So I think it's safe to say that you probably have seen the Oscars. If not, you've heard about the aftermath of this past Sunday's Oscars. And so I was going to come and do this video yesterday, but I decided I needed a little time to process everything because I've been a Will Smith fan for a very long time. I've been a Chris Rock fan for a very long time. Not as much of a Chris Rock fan as I am a Will Smith fan, but I enjoy them both. I enjoy their art. And so what we saw unfold Sunday night, I'm pretty sure was shocking to a lot of us, but I really wanted to come here and talk about it because we show up here and talk about social work entrepreneurship, or at least I show up here and talk about social work entrepreneurship with you. And some things that I've mentioned before is that oftentimes as social workers, we're given this narrative that we have to work with vulnerable populations only, right? And while that is the crux of the population we work with to help them, overcome barriers and obstacles and things of that nature, there are so many more people who can benefit from the skill sets that social workers have, right? And so many times when people see social workers, they think all we do is mental health counseling. And while, yes, that is a good portion of what we do, and that is what most of the social workers who go into practice do, there's other levels of social work, right? And so the other night on the Oscars, okay, first of all, I was taken aback. And let's just circle back before I start to talk about entrepreneurship, and let's look at the issues from a social work perspective, right? And so we know that Jada is suffering with alopecia, right? And so I hear a lot of people saying it's just a joke, but we don't know how something impacts someone. And so, to assume that just because you find it funny doesn't mean that it's not offensive to the person or hurtful, or we have come accustomed to this culture of if someone says it's just a joke, you should take it. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I also am not one of those uber sensitive people who thinks everything needs to be censored, or that if someone says the wrong thing, they need to be canceled. So I'm not that, but I think that we do need to be mindful of how things impact people, right? Especially when it comes to our bodies, because that seems to be something that people still have this idea that it's just okay to say whatever they want to say about your body. And then if they follow it up with, well, it was just a joke, you're supposed to just be like, oh, okay, yeah, it didn't really bother me. And we all know that that is not true. Now, Will Smith. We understand that Will Smith came from a childhood of trauma. He grew up in a domestic violence situation. He watched his mom get beat up by his father, and he was really unable to help her and step in and support her in a way that he might have felt helpful, right? Because as a child, there's only so much you can do in that situation. Now, couple that with everything that's been talked about with his and Jada's marriage, which I always think is interesting because married people go through problems every day. Married people go through infidelity. Married people just go through the gamut of potential problems. And if you spend 20 years, 30 years, 40 years with someone, you guys are going to experience a lot of things together. And through some of those times, you might grow apart, and then through other times you might grow back together, right? And so marriages are complex, and the thing about Will and Jada's marriage is they have to live it out on the world stage and have people judge it. And then we have Chris Rock, who we know, I don't know if you've ever watched any of his documentaries, but he talks about how he cheated on his wife a lot, and how he felt that he had a sex addiction, and that he suffers with a mild form of Asperger's syndrome. So there's a lot of things to unpack there, right? So that was a very complex situation. I am not here to say who was right or who was wrong. And violence is never condoned unless you're trying to defend yourself, right? So with that being said, I also understand that we're human, that we all have our breaking point. And I know a lot of people were like, well, he should have did this when the whole August Alsina thing was going on. And I know even in my own personal life, I've had like big things happen to me where I probably should have blown up, but I didn't. And then all of a sudden this one little teeny tiny thing happened and then I do blow up. And I know there's this song by Mos Def where he says something about the straw that broke the camel's back is because it was a million other straws underneath it. And so while we see Will behave in a way that most of us have probably never seen him behave in, we could probably be safe to say that even though it seemed like a very little straw, the million other straws that were underneath that one are really what led to that breakdown. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I am looking at it through a professional lens of trauma and of the human condition, right? And so we know that people make mistakes. We know that there is juxtaposition to people because we are dynamic individuals. And so when people are like, how could he react like that and then get on the stage and talk about love? Well, because love is a complex emotion. And so he can have love for Jada and potentially attack this man who is saying something about her that clearly made her feel some type of way. And then he can still get up and have love for his fans. With all of that said, I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of the reasons why I started the Social Work Entrepreneur Academy is because when I would talk to social workers and really talk about thinking outside of the box and what other industries can we move into, because I'll be honest, I respect all of the other behavioral health fields, but being a social worker, I am biased to the social work profession. I am biased to our lens, and I think that we have a unique lens. And with that unique lens, I think that we should be everywhere. When I used to work at Planet Fitness and I would see some of the dynamics coming in as far as personalities and body image issues and the things, right? I felt like there needs to be a social worker at every fitness center. And you know, who's going to start the business to make that happen? Who's going to start the agency that's going to put social workers in gyms across America, right? Who are you going to be that person? I could be that person, but I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying, there might be somebody out there who wants to do that. We need social workers in the fashion industry. We need social workers in every industry of business, whether it's banking, whether it's health insurance, whether it's whatever, right? And not just in a situation where they're helping customers, but helping executives, helping HR, helping organizations understand about people living in the margins, about barriers, about obstacles, about oppression, about diversity, about all of these things, about cultural competence, right? And so I talk about this because when I say that we need social workers everywhere, we need social workers everywhere. And I think that there is space in these celebrity venues for social workers to have an opportunity for their entrepreneurial endeavor. I absolutely think that. Now, could a social worker have helped that situation? We don't know. We don't know. But just like these celebrities have personal assistants, I am a firm believer that someone out there could create a personal social work assistant or a personal social worker, right? So maybe you would be the social worker to Will and Jada, right? So maybe they have their PR person, right? Because Will's PR person came out to calm him down. So just like they have a PR person and they have a personal assistant, they could absolutely have a personal social worker, right? Someone to help them potentially prepare to process the night. Now, they knew Chris Rock was going to be hosting. They know Chris Rock has sometimes he's funny, sometimes his jokes are very controversial, just like Dave Chappelle. And so there needs to be preparation for this. There needs to be coping skills for this. And I'm pretty sure Will and Jada probably have a therapist. Are they a social worker? Are they looking at that social environment? Are they having that conversation with them? You know, there was the whole entanglement scandal with Will and Jada, and they got on Red Table Talk and they talked about it. And so they're entering a space where they know all these people are, right? We have to also look at our environment. We're 2 years into a pandemic, and for a good portion of that, people weren't getting in these spaces and doing these events together. And so there's so many things happening. But the purpose of this video is because social workers need to be everywhere. And this was an opportunity for us to see what's happening, what's unfolding with Will, Jada, what unfolded with Chris. Even if we look at the Kanye and Kim Kardashian situation, what is unfolding with that, right? People are out here on social media arguing with each other and doing the things. Now, I know Will and Chris Rock both sent apologies, but I think that as social workers, we can really start to examine where we are working, where we are utilizing our talents, who we're helping. And I think there is space for social workers to be everywhere. There was space on Sunday night for a social worker to be at the Oscars. You know, even if they weren't with a particular person as such as a personal social worker, I might look into that. I'd be willing to be Will and Jada's personal social worker. But all jokes aside, you know, there was space there for a social worker to be on the Oscar staff, right? To try and assess for these situations, to try and, you know, mitigate what was happening. And so those are just my thoughts on what happened. I know I've watched a ton of videos where people have given their thoughts and you know, their feelings on what was right, what was wrong, and who should be canceled and who should not be canceled. I mean, personally, I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe there's opportunities for growth. You know, going back to social workers being everywhere, I just think as social workers, we need to be much more innovative. We need to think so much more outside of the box of what we've been doing. And we need to look at how we can start to be in these spaces and promote change. So next year, maybe someone watching this video will figure out how to write a proposal to the Oscar board or the Academy or whatever you call them. I don't really follow this stuff too much, but the Academy, and talk about how they can help them, what kind of transformation they can give, right? Because it wasn't so long ago that people were talking, Will and Jada were talking about boycotting the Oscars, and among other people, that's when it was like, Oscars so white, you know. And so there's things to be done in these spaces, things that social workers, it's my personal belief that while all mental health counselors do a phenomenal service for people, it is my opinion that social workers are uniquely qualified to not just look at the clinical indicators that someone might be dealing with. So Will might have some clinical issues. Chris Rock might have some clinical issues. So may Jada Pinkett-Smith. But we're also looking at these issues with the system. So the Academy, you know, along with these other systems that are working together to host this event. We need to look at the policy, right? The policy of what a comedian does in their own personal stand-up show and what a comedian does on a more diverse stage, right? Because not everyone there was a fan of Chris Rock. Not everyone there was really there to see him. This was a show where he hosted, but it was not his show. And so are some jokes appropriate for his own personal show as opposed to something like the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever a person is hosting? You know, that's a question up for debate. But those are things that social workers can have conversations about when people are talking about putting these people on a public stage. And even when they do their own show, they're on a public stage, but for the most part, for the most part, we are not going out here to see a performance of someone we don't like, right? If there's people out there who do not like Dave Chappelle, well, if Dave Chappelle comes and does a show, they probably won't purchase a ticket. But Dave Chappelle being on a Netflix special is a very different thing, because now you're going out to an audience. And of course, there's people who are there who like, well, just don't watch the Netflix show. Well, you know, you got people at Netflix who work there who felt slighted. You know, they felt attacked by his commentary, by his jokes. And, you know, same thing Sunday night. So again, I'm not here to say who's right or wrong, what I think. I really don't have thoughts about it. You know, I'm always in my entrepreneur mind. So when I saw it going down, the first thing I was thinking is, we need social workers in that space. We need social workers to have conversations. We need social workers to utilize their skills, knowledge, talents, and areas of expertise to promote change in all of these spaces, right? And so I just wanted to come to you with that quick message as we talk about entrepreneurship, and as you see things like this unfolding. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were wrapped up and talking all the conversations and watching all the memes, just like I did. But again, I was very much always thinking about it from an entrepreneur lens. You know, what was going on, what was happening, because we don't see what happens behind the scenes, right? What took place before they got there. People are like, well, he was laughing, you know, like, we are very complex people. I know that I've had situations where something detrimental has happened to me, and my initial reaction was like a quick laugh before it turned into sheer terror. So we don't know. We're complex people. And again, I'm always looking at things from my entrepreneur eye on how we can promote change and how we can have more impacts on our communities and societies. And so I think social workers need to be everywhere, including the Oscars. And will it be you? Will you be the social worker to write that proposal? Will you be the social worker to really be innovative and promote change in a way that we haven't seen, in a way that could potentially prevent future situations of like the one we saw Sunday night? So I hope you found this video valuable. If so, please be sure to click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and be sure to hit the bell icon so you are notified every time I upload a new video. Until next time, this is your girl Michelle saying, stop waiting. The time is now. Start your clinical private practice or digital online business. Bye for now.